This is the Level Up Podcast. I'm Taylor Petrinovich.
And I'm Kelly Gilster of 618 Studios.
And we are on a mission to help filmmakers level up their businesses and their craft so they can make more and work less.
We want to help you confidently take your business from mainstream to luxury, and it all starts right here. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining this week's conversation. We are here with Stanton Giles, who I think a lot of us know him by having a hand in the destination market, which is always something really exciting. There's always a swirl of questions about it. Stanton, how are you doing?
I'm good. It is it's good to be in 2023, at least for me in my business, having done so many weddings, travel weddings, where having to get on a plane in definitely 2021 and 2022, dialing back, raising prices, things like that, kind of crafted my year to take on a lot less weddings. And so I banged through all of my my edits earlier on in this year. And so I'm feeling a little bit of fresh air right now before diving back in to some work and stuff. And so I'm doing good. How are you two?
We're good. I think we feel the same way. I mean, like, so far, these weddings that we're on this year, the conversations among all the creative partners are like, it feels good to be in 2023. Like, this is the first year that like actually feels normal. We're hitting the ground running, and I think we're feeling refreshed. I don't know about you, Stan, but like you were kind of saying, like raising your prices. I felt like I was kind of stuck in a price slump for so long because like we held some of these weddings we shot 3 years after they booked us.
Yes,
so I'm like, we're shooting this for nothing.
And it hurts. It hurts when you're doing that. You're obligated and you still love your couple, but it's like, oh man, you're like shooting weddings for double or triple that price, almost.
Yeah.
I mean, and a lot of us, I would, not to speak for you guys, but I feel like a lot of people that I talk to, they started kind of got on the ground running with videography, wedding videography in like 2017, 2018, 2019. And so over the course of these 3, 4, 5 years, prices kind of drastically change as you increase in your capability and your proficiency as a business owner and stuff. And so that's definitely evident for those of us that, started 2017, 2018, 2019, and that kind of era where we're still growing and stuff. And so to have something that you booked back in 2019 or 2020 in your shooting, it's like, ouch. But yeah, so I definitely empathize with that.
Yeah, that's me. I started in 2017. When did you start?
2017. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
First wedding. Yeah.
I started in 2010. So this is our 13th year.
Oh, wow. Man.
Yeah.
She's been around the block a few times.
I have. So we kind of grew. Amazing. Yeah, we kind of grew with the recession, the 2006, 2007, 2008 recession started in 2010. And then it was actually, looking back, my parents were terrified for us starting a business then, but it actually was great because, we all start super low, and then that people didn't have a lot of money to spend back then. And then we just kind of like rode the wave of momentum as the economy grew. Our business grew too. So it was a good experience.
That's amazing. You have some tenure for sure. Dang.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Cool. So how many weddings are you shooting then this year? What's your cap?
I'm at like 6. So I capped it a lot lower. I kind of dove more into the education side of things. Came out with a course earlier this year called Rome, and it's for travel wedding videography. But in general, it's a wedding videography course. There is a travel part to it, but most wedding videographers could use it. And and that's kind of one I wanted to do by design for myself and my soul. I started to, I cannot shoot that many weddings every year and be fulfilled. I start getting angsty about it. I start getting angsty about being a wedding vendor, or being told what to do, or having to fly out to all these locations. And I don't want that. When I have my client calls with people, I do want to be intentional and sincere. Dialing back on the amount of weddings is allowing that, and it's also giving me a breath of fresh air to breathe between things, to try other things, but also to continue making beautiful wedding films to the capacity that I feel like I can do that as Stanton Giles. You know what I mean? And so definitely dialed way back on it, and it's been fun to dive into the education stuff even more as well. And to be finally, after years, to come out with a course and to people to be happy with it, and to, you know, kind of see that it's kind of just the beginning of stuff with that, has been really cool. And so that's allowed me to dial back some, or a lot. I mean, that's like a quarter of the amount of weddings that I would typically shoot during a year. And so, yeah, what about you two?
So we're kind of, we for years and years and years always shot like 25 to 27 a year. But that was also when we were only shooting weddings and before we had kids, and like there's so much in our lives that have changed on a personal level and a professional level. So we have a commercial brand now where we do commercial work. I have like the courses, we have education now, all this stuff. So now we've scaled it back to about half that. So we have 11 this year so far. I have a feeling we'll probably take a couple more, and I don't know, it's still probably too much, honestly. It's hard to find that balance, but going from like 25 to less than 20 always feels a little scary, just because I don't know. It's like, it's weird because I know that we're making the same amount of money because we've raised our prices so much, but it just feels weird to be in that, like, you know, 10 to 12, 13 range.
I only have 8 this year.
Hey, we're both single digits.
Yeah. But actually, like, I think I'll make more money this year than I've ever made. So I'm like totally happy with my 8.
That's the goal. That's the goal right there.
Yeah.
Good for you. That's amazing.
Thanks. Well, we all have a hand a bit in destination weddings, you know. I mean, we all live in great destinations ourselves. I mean, Stan, you're in Colorado, which is beautiful, and I'm sure you would love to shoot more in your backyard. Kelly's diving more into destination weddings, like going all these like fun places. I'm kind of lame and I kind of like stay in my little bubble, but we kind of wanted to bring you on to talk about destination weddings. I feel like it's such a topic that is almost like romanticized within the industry. Like everyone I talk to like really wants to get into destination weddings, whether that be the European market or staying like, you know, here in the US. But I think that there's a lot that is left unsaid about the destination market by those who have definitely like gone that route. And so we wanted to bring you on to kind of talk about the good, bad, and ugly. And so to help listeners kind of figure out if that's something that they may want to pursue or not. So we're just going to kind of open up that conversation here.
Yeah, I love that spin kind of on, as we briefly talked about before we started recording, that we don't just want to, a lot of times I'm just talking about how to get these leads, find these leads, how to book them and stuff, but to actually lay out some truth about it to people, which all three of us have done destination weddings. And so I'm sure that there will be some nodding heads, you know, in all three directions when we're all talking about this. But most of the people that do shoot a lot of destination weddings do feel the same, that there's lots of pros, but there are lots of cons as well. And it's definitely true what you were saying a second ago. It's this sought after thing. It's like this holy grail, this fountain of youth, that's like, oh, if I could just get to the other side of the fence to that greener grass, like everything would just be so much better and I'd be fulfilled in my wedding work. And while there is an element of that is significantly true, there's also a side that when I look back to the weddings that I was shooting locally before shooting destination weddings, I'm like, man, I actually had it really good. And so I guess I can kind of dive into that a little bit. Obviously, the pros are you get to travel and see the world, which is almost like this innate thing in a lot of us, that we want to go see these beautiful locations, because people aren't like doing destination weddings in boring places typically. Like they're choosing to go somewhere because it's really cool. And so inherently it's going to be somewhere beautiful. You're going to get beautiful sun. I mean, a sunrise over Kansas is going to look beautiful because it's a sunrise. So you put it in somewhere really cool, and it's going to look incredible. And so I think it's really cool that you get to travel and see all these different places. People are always, I have noticed something with destination wedding couples as well, at least my couples, is that the couples that choose to shoot, or sorry, the couples that choose to plan a destination wedding or an elopement are typically much more excited about their wedding, because there's just this air of intentionality and going and doing something different than maybe what their family told them to do or wanted them to do. And they're like, you know what? screw it. We're going to go to Cabo and we're going to get married on a catamaran, or we're going to Iceland and we're going to get married in front of a volcano. And they're just like so excited about this decision that they've made to do something that's different than a regular wedding. And so that's really cool to be a part of, because they're really excited for that to be documented in photography and videography. And so I just noticed this air of excitement that's a little bit different than, obviously people are excited to get married. I hope, most people are, but it's their wedding day. But there is this side that people get really excited about. And it provides really good portfolio pieces. I mean, your feed is going to look incredible the more that you shoot in these places. And so I would say, like, just being able to travel, having portfolio pieces, and getting to work with couples that want story in their films, and that have story inherently in their films, that are excited. Those are like the biggest pros to me. And I think I just love all my destination wedding elopement couples so much. It's just you're with them all weekend, for 3 days, and you're on a catamaran in Tulum, or you're going on a train in Austria with them, documenting this process of them going and doing this thing. So that's, to me, that's my pros. The cons, to like briefly list those out as well. The destinations are cool, but there's a lot of work to get to those destinations and a lot of camera gear. I mean, I am not a light traveling videographer. I carry redundancy in all forms. And so there's always an extra camera, an extra something, which means double the amount of gear normally. And maybe not double the amount of gear, but a lot more gear. And I like to make sure I'm prepared. And so whether it's an elopement or a destination wedding, I'm bringing a lot of stuff with me. And so just lugging all that stuff around in a foreign country, just kind of always thinking about, where is it? Is it on my person? Am I touching it? Can I close my eyes for a second? If I have to like wrap up in my carry-on roller bag so nobody steals it, because that's $30,000 worth of gear in there. And it's like this constant stress of thinking about your gear, having to go down cobblestone roads, bumping around, in Italy or something, dragging your carry-on and your light stands or something behind you. It's difficult. And getting on trains and airplanes and buses and rental cars and all of that, dragging things through sand. It's just a lot more work in regards to the gear, but also just travel. I mean, it's cool to go to the destinations. I think we can all agree that like going to the airport is not the most fun thing. And it's maybe there was a time back whenever I first started where I was like, yes, like I get to go to the airport. And I'm like, like drinking Red Bull, walking through the airport with my AirPods in, like a little like, happy dude going through the airport because I'm so excited to be there. But that is not me now. I have a disdain for airports because it just, I feel like it's kind of self-explanatory. It's just a stressful place to be. And there's a lot riding on that flight. And so the travel part is a big negative. I have found myself wanting to, like what we're saying, I used to be shooting, upwards of 25 something weddings, like you were, Kelly, or are. Well, I guess you said you're doing less, you're doing in the teens now, but almost every single one of those was me getting on a plane. And so sometimes twice a week. Sometimes there was one time back in 2021 when the world kind of started opening back up that I shot 7 weddings in 3 different countries over the course of 26 days. And I never went home. I was bounced from Iceland to Mexico to California to Hawaii, like all over the place. And I was so exhausted by the time that I got home. And so if you're into that, that's cool. And there's some people that have this stamina of travel, but there is a side of me too that I want to be home and I want to hang out with my friends and go grab a drink with my girlfriend, or hang out with my dog, or go on a hike just locally and just rest in the fact that I'm home. And you get to do that when you're not shooting destination weddings. You get to drive to a wedding and come back, which sounds like, to me, that's, most people, that's what they do. But for me, I'm like, it's almost like an endorphin rush. I'm like, I feel so amazing that I get to drive home and put my gear in my house and then go to bed at the end of a wedding day, instead of having a whole travel day to get back, or even 2 days of travel or something. And so that went on a little longer than I wanted, but as a broad overview, that's like the biggest things to me.
Yeah. I feel like it's good to find that balance. People kind of, as you're growing your business, you're figuring out what is it that ignites you, invigorates you. like what you love to do. Like you're going to burn out if you don't find like where your love lies in this industry. And for some people it's destination, and for some people it's local, and there's no wrong way to do it. You know, there's a balance of both. I think for Paul and I, we're lucky enough to where like we live really close to LA, Newport Beach, areas of like where high wealth clientele also have their weddings, or they'll, you know, we have one next year in Laguna Beach, which is like 20 minutes from us, and they're all coming from Texas. So it's almost like we're in sort of a destination market ourselves. Taylor, you too, probably. I know that we did one last year up in Napa, and they all came from Australia. And so
most of my clients come from like the East Coast, or I have one coming from Germany to get married in Tahoe this year. So yeah, like,
oh, that's cool.
It's kind of nice to live in like this unique little like destination bubble.
Yeah. So if you find yourself in an area maybe where you are in the destination area, but it gets old. Like honestly, like there's part of me this year that's like kind of not done with Orange County, but like we've done it all. And like, I don't want to keep doing it weekend after weekend, if you know what I mean. Like we just got back 3 weeks ago from Aspen, and like, that was life-giving. Like I love to be able to like go there, shoot there, then come home and then have something more local. It's a good balance. So, you know, for those listening, like if you're not sure that destination is for you, that's totally okay. You know, we all find our flow. So just to kind of encourage people listening on that. But for those who do want to dive more into destination, Stanton, what is your biggest piece of advice for people listening?
I think figuring out, or coming to, kind of going off what you were saying, coming to a place of maybe you don't know how much you want to be in the destination wedding world, but the idea of it sounds cool. And then you're hearing this kind of negative side of it, maybe coming from me as well. I don't say that to ever deter people from actually going and doing it, because there is a very life-giving side to it. But it can become your bread and butter. And if for some people that works, for others it doesn't. And so I always like to encourage people to at least try things. And so if you feel that pull inside of you, to listen to it and then to act on it. And if it doesn't pan out, well, you're just shooting one wedding. It's not like you signed a 6-month contract to go work in a different country. You know what I mean? That's the beauty of our job. And then if you start doing it and you love it, like me, and you just start booking 20, 25 weddings a year where you're traveling, and then all of a sudden you feel the opposite pull in you, well, then you can do what I did, and you can, you know, dial back or raise prices, or just say no more, which is really hard to do, which is probably could be a whole nother podcast episode, saying no. But I would say my biggest advice to people, and this, it bugs me because it sounds so cliche, but when I did it, looking back, it was the biggest thing I think that influenced me being able to break more into the destination wedding sector. And it's reconstructing the branding and the look of my business. Branding and the look, that's the same thing. But reconstructing the branding is the first thing that I always try to tell people. What was funny when I made this course for travel wedding videographers is I thought it was going to be so much more stuff about cinematography and editing and all these kinds of things. And while there was a lot of content in that, started making the business module, and it was like in the 20s as far as the different videos that I had. And I realized, I was like, wow, actually, like, I knew the business side was important, but when I started physically breaking it down and coming up with the different topics, crafting your business is the most important part of setting yourself up to get into this world of destination weddings. I don't see a reason why somebody that is wanting to get married in Kauai that gets referred to some random videographer in Tennessee, which I was before I moved to Colorado from, West Tennessee, the flatland, lots of barn weddings. I don't see any reason for a bride to pick me over anybody else. To me, it is almost a completely different job in a way, or a different clientele for sure, at least that are hiring these kinds of people. And so I say that because I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm a wedding videographer. If they're getting married somewhere, they're just going to automatically hire me. I don't think that's true. And I think that's why a lot of people get stuck in the world of not actually booking these weddings. And so reconstructing your branding is a really big part of that, the first step. And so the look of your Instagram page, that's like the front door. And then you let people into your living room as like, I think John Bunn talks about, or I don't know, I think it's John Bunn that says like your website is your living room. Once people see like the front door of Instagram or whatever it might be, or TikTok. And then setting that up and having your best of your best pieces on there, and then just claiming the title of destination wedding videographer and forcing yourself into it. I mean, if you've ever heard me talk in a podcast, I always talk about this, but it was the price I paid in the beginning to start this beautiful butterfly effect of booking destination weddings and getting it really is a beautiful, I call it a beautiful butterfly effect because it truly was of me. I wanted to go to Iceland because I love to travel. And I went and I messaged like 50 planners in Iceland. I was like, hey, I'm going to be here on these days. Here's my portfolio. I know I haven't done destination wedding work before, but I'll do it for free if you have a couple that doesn't have one. And so for me, when I tell people that I try to tread lightly because people could get really spammy with reaching out to planners. I try to be intentional with every email and just be like real with them. And so reaching out to vendors in those areas as well in a classy way and actually being intentional in writing these emails was a really big part. And 49 of these planners didn't get back to me, but one did. And they had, that's all it took. And so I got that wedding. And then I was able to take the teaser from that to, I got recommended by somebody else and I didn't want to show them my other portfolio. So I just showed them the Iceland teaser and they're like, holy crap, that's amazing. They paid me $500 and then paid for my travel to get to Cabo. And I was like mind blown. I was like telling my roommate the night before, I was like, if I ever get my travel paid for to go to a wedding, I'll know I've made it. And then like the next day it happened and it was like, I was like freaked out about it. And it was just cool to see that. And then tagging things on Vimeo. And then another like, one of my first big weddings that I shot that people know about in the industry is the one called Ricky and Sarah. And it's this crazy Tulum wedding and clip art and all these kind of just weird things happening. And it's just like a weird, fun, different wedding film. And so that kind of kickstarted things and it just like blew up from there. And so you never know when you're going to make your break. And so like giving your all and not worrying about money in the beginning, taking money and investing in good branding, and then diving in and then getting the portfolio pieces to put on your Instagram and your website that are going to establish you even further for this title that you've claimed for yourself as a destination wedding videographer, because you have to claim it, you have to brand around it, and then you have to take a leap of faith that's not money incentivized. That's like passion incentivized, that you want this. And so I'm going to take a risk and I'm going to go to this location, book these flights, and hopefully something works out.
I love what you said, where you said you never know when you're going to make your break, because it's really true. You don't know, sometimes early on in your business, you don't really know what you're stepping into. Maybe you like all of a sudden it's all coming together. I think early on in our business, we had like, I would really hype up a wedding in my mind. And then I would constantly feel a little bit let down because I'm like, this is going to be the one. This is going to be like the venue that's like, if they're at this amazing venue and it's like their story wasn't quite there. Or it would be like the story was amazing, but it wasn't quite at like the venue or with the creative partners that would gain like traction and recognition. And so once when they all blend together, I started, I think it was like year 3. I was like, okay, I need to go into like every wedding, and I still do. I'm like, okay, this one could be good, but I'm not going to set my hopes too high because you just never know like what's gonna blow up and what's not gonna blow up,
Sometimes it's the ones that like on paper kind of seem like but then like you get there and you're like, oh, this is like so much better than I thought. Yay.
That is so true. There was like this wedding I shot 40 minutes south of here in Colorado, which to me, I was like, yeah, I get to shoot in Colorado, but it wasn't anything crazy. It was like the first time it was like a house that the groom was getting ready. And it was the first time this place had ever been running a venue. It was like the reception was in a barn. But they ended up doing vows to each other, and they're like Call of Duty streamers, and they were talking about Call of Duty in it. And I was like, when they were saying their vows, I was like, oh, this is going to be a good film. Like, and I like took video of them streaming and put it in there. And it was this like action-packed Call of Duty opener kind of a thing, which was so unique and fun that I had no expectation of going in. And so anyway, just a short story of like, yes, I very much agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. So those listening, if you find yourself kind of hyping up some certain weddings in your head, like just my advice this year is to just kind of go at it. It's just like a smooth smooth take. I don't know kind of what I'm saying, but if I'm basically like doing like a flat line in a way, if you're watching on YouTube, of just going into each thing and doing your best. You know, you never know, like if the couple, we had one actually 2 weeks ago that they were like, we're doing our first look and we're going to say our vows, but we don't want our vows to be filmed.
Rough.
We're like trying to tread lightly on that one, because we're very much in like with our approach and everything, we just want to be like very easy to work with, like really respect the client's wishes on all things. We never want to be like that videographer that's like, no, I'm doing this, but we just kind of put it as a way of like, we wanted to figure out how to approach them on this. Like, what is their fear of us filming these personal vows? And as we kind of prodded a little bit more, it was just that they didn't want us to be in their space. I think that they just thought that like we were going to be like right over their shoulder filming it. And when I was just like, hey, like, we had just filmed their first look, and I think they started to see like, hey, they're on like lenses, they're far back. I'm like, hey, like we can film it just how we filmed your first look. Like, go find a spot.
Nice.
We'll be super discreet. Find your spot. Say your vows. We'll put up. We already had a lav on him because of the first look. And they were like, okay, like you could just feel like the stress, like leave their body. And they were like, okay. And like the vows were so good. Like they were so great. And I'm glad we filmed them. And they were, I don't know if they're like super happy now, but when they see their film, they'll be really happy that they have those. I know this is very much a side tangent, but I guess with that wedding, we went into it. We'd never met with the couple before or anything like that. And so we were looking for ways to bring more story into their film. And they were just doing like repeat after me vows at their ceremony. I think they were more private people, and that's why they did their vows, their personal vows in private. So, just kind of like looking for ways when you haven't met with that couple beforehand to find that story. And like I guess I'll tie it back to what you were saying about that Call of Duty. Like you probably didn't have any idea that they were going to do like Call of Duty vows.
No, I knew they were like streamers, but I didn't know they were going to do that. It was like really cool how they incorporated it in their vows. It was seamless going into the actual like real vows.
So, Stanton, a lot of our listeners are definitely headed towards the luxury market, or that's their goal. And we're always talking about increasing your prices, charging your worth. And of course, travel is a huge expense when it comes to booking destination weddings. Do you have any tips or things you like to talk about in terms of how you're charging for travel to make sure that you're still profitable?
Yeah, for sure. The first thing when I'm trying to coach people with, because that's a big question that a lot of people have, about charging travel and stuff, and, trying to come up with the numbers on the front end, and couples have questions about it and things. My approach has been and still is, and I think there's a lot of benefit whenever you're first starting off with it. I always charge for travel extra, and that's just I enter into the call, and when they do bring up travel, there's what I believe there's this confidence that comes with being like, oh, on the pricing guide, that's the cost for me to actually do the work and do the filming and editing, but travel is extra for me, to get out to actually be there. And there's like this almost like separation of like your own worth in a way. I don't know how to describe it super well, but by just kind of point blank confidently saying, oh, nope, sorry, yeah, those prices were just for me to come out and do the work and to edit it, everything in between, but that doesn't include travel. And then from there, I typically say, and there is a spot on my pricing guide that says this, but they typically have questions about it, that I charge travel at the end. I don't charge on the front end. I think it's a good idea for people in the beginning to be doing that, because when you're first starting out, you really want to get those portfolio pieces. And I guess I'll get into profitability here in a second, but you're wanting to get these portfolio pieces, and you never know sometimes, because we don't have test subjects. Everything's real life, like with these client calls and our pricing guides. And it's like, you'll either get them or you will lose them. And so you don't know what was the tipping point. And I try to mitigate as much stuff out of there to where they just say yes. And who knows how close your price point for the package that they're thinking about is to pushing them over the edge. edge to, where they can't afford you anymore. And so if you tack on $1,000 to travel, or if you're going somewhere like crazy, like Norway or something, and it's like almost close to $2,000 of travel, or, maybe even more, that could really de-incentivize them from the, where they were comfortable affording you in the beginning. And so what I say to them on the front end is like, oh yeah, I never know how much it's going to charge. It cost me $60 to fly to LA from Denver. It cost me $1,800 to fly to Ålesund, Norway. And so I can never really know, but on just so I'm not booking first class, like rest easy. I'm traveling, on a budget while I'm not sitting in the back by the bathrooms. I like to take care of myself at the same time. So, I'm not booking Mercedes when I get rental cars. I'm not booking the nicest hotels. I am trying to make travel as cheap as I can for you. And so, just confidence at the beginning and open and honest communication about it. But like, I think what that also does is it puts it off by not charging travel in the beginning. It puts off this esoteric number that they don't know about. They can forget about it for a little bit, and it's not a charge that they're having to worry about right now that's going to raise the total cost of the package and make you potentially lose it. And so that's what I advise people to do in the beginning. That's what I still do now, because I mean, even if you're, shooting a wedding that's $20,000 or something like that, or that's a, wedding videography budget that's that much, you still don't know if you're 1,000 away from losing them or something. And I think the same principle applies. And, I still want to book those kinds of weddings. And so in terms of profitability, I charge for everything. And I think that it has just become, I guess I charge for everything except for food. I would be like eating anyway, is what I tell my clients. If I wasn't there, I just, some people can charge a per diem. Some people don't. That's another thing. I'm just like, I don't really want to push them over the edge with this. And so I'm just going to pay for my own food because they're paying for everything else. But, yeah, I charge for everything. And, there's a, I don't know. There's a confidence that comes, I think, that maybe you guys can agree, the longer you go in your career, you feel really uncomfortable doing that at first. But there's a confidence that comes with your worth, because of the amount of leads you're getting, or the amount of like how much your couples love your films, or how much work you're putting into it. There's a confidence that comes with it that you feel good about actually charging for that, because one, it's not taking away from your profit. And two, you're protecting yourself. And so, yeah, to me, the idea of it, I know a lot of people have questions about it, but I guess my shorthand answer would be to charge the couple for it on the back end. Whenever you book your flights, I typically charge, whenever they're paying their final payment, I'll tell them how much the flights, hotel, rental car were. And then on the back end after the wedding, typically after I like deliver a teaser or something like that, because to get them all excited again about everything, I will send over like baggage fees or parking or airport parking, things like that, ferries or in Norway or whatever it might be, train fares, all those things on the back end that I wasn't expecting that I had to pay, or like going to Cabo and then getting a $200 tax on my drone, charging that on the back end, these unexpected things, which has worked into my contract. I bold and underline and the contract right above their name, like all travel is paid for my clients. There's no smoke and mirrors about it. I'm very honest with them about it. And I think that's the biggest thing, is just being confident, knowing your worth, and communicating it to them, helping that alleviate the if you're starting off, helping them get to that point of actually signing the contract and sending you the retainer. I think that helps by doing it that way. Does that kind of answer the question a little bit?
Yeah, that's really helpful. I think everyone does it like obviously a little bit differently. And so, but I do think that there is something to say about charging parts of it on the back end, because you just don't know. Like, so that Aspen wedding that I talked about, our flight ended up like getting canceled and the whole airport shut down because of like a private jet that got stuck on the runway. It was a whole thing. So we had to we had to rent a car and drive home with the photographers. So we like split that fee, but we rented the car. Then we had to like stop in Vegas and stop and get a hotel room. And like, because our pricing structure isn't set up like that, like that was just kind of like out of pocket. Like, yes, we got a refund on our flight, but I'm sure we still like spent extra on top of that because of this like unforeseen thing. So that's something to consider too, as people are scaling their destination work, they're finding their flow in pricing, that charging some stuff after the fact is a normal practice too, if you choose to go that route.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just to clarify, I'm not saying for those listening, like my way is the best way by any means. It's just what's worked for me. And so I know there's lots of people in the industry that have very strong arguments for charging most stuff on the front end, which is totally cool. But this is what again, it's really hard. I don't like poll my brides and grooms afterward. And I'm like, was I $500 like within you saying no, or how close was like, yeah, I don't have any kind of test subject with them. It's all just kind of like theory in a way. And so this is what I believe to be a linchpin in a way of landing these clients in the beginning. But once you've done the branding, you've taken that passion leap, and gone to these places, you've reached out to people, from scaling from there.
I love it.
Cool.
Passion leap. Can we coin that?
Passion leap. Passion leap. Put it on your coffee mug.
A few weeks ago, we had Charlie Hilbrant on the podcast, and we came up with the term "let it decant." So, I feel like each little episode should have its catchphrase.
Yeah. You could, put it in the title.
Love it so much. Well, Stanton, this has been amazing. And I don't know about you guys. You guys are already in the destination world. I have only dipped my toes, but I'm thinking next year my kids will be old enough, maybe I can kind of skate by with a few more things outside of California. Nice. So you definitely have me super excited for that time to come. But for anyone listening who doesn't already follow you and know where to find you, can you just tell them where you are online?
Yeah. Films by Stanton. Nice and simple. STANTON. That is my Instagram, my TikTok. Stanton Giles is my YouTube. I post some helpful tutorials, things like that. Obviously, I'm doing lots more education these days, as I was talking about. And also, I almost forgot, I wanted to put something together for those of you that are wanting to break into the destination wedding world. Maybe you just need a lot of people work really well by having maybe something physical in front of them to look at, as far as maybe what I like to call a roadmap in a way, just some helpful things of hey, do these things. And then I like to put almost like a timeline on it. When I've spoke before at places, I like to tell people, hey, if you do these things for 2 weeks and you consistently do them, no matter how much it hurts your soul to send a cold email, or how boring it is to write out 20 actual authentic emails, I promise you, if you do this, you'll get something. You'll get some planner that responds to you. You'll get some couple that sees the hashtag. Something will happen. So there'll be some kind of traction. The universe wills into existence the things that we go for, in a way, not to get weird and hippie. I'm not like that, but it's but by trying, things manifest. And so that's the biggest thing I like to tell people, is to try. And so I want to give, however it works with the way that you guys give out these kinds of things, just a little PDF for those that are listening, that if they want to download it, have a little thing of all right, I'm ready to do whatever he says, to try these things, to get into the destination wedding world and see if it's what I want to devote my life to, and travel every weekend and never see my friends and family or kids. Just kidding. But I don't, that'll just dip back to the cons there for a second. But yeah, so would love to give that. And again, I guess you guys can figure out the best way for them to get that, but we'll have that for those that want to download it.
Yeah, let's throw it at thelevelupco.com/films by Stanton. He'll have his own little URL on our website with that download link, and you can find it in the show notes.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. Well, I really appreciate. I'm honored that you guys had me come on. It was fun to talk about destination weddings in a different light, other than just talking about how to book them. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. So thank you.
Thank you for joining us in this conversation. If you enjoyed this episode, please help us reach more filmmakers just like you by taking a screenshot and sharing it on social media. Don't forget to tag us at The Level Up Co.
And join us again next week, same time, same place, as we continue to level up the industry together.